is the world coming to? Kalishaw, Plasma One, Bomani Jones, Pablo Torre, Jackie McMahon. Hello, Jackie. Today, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some of this, some of that. You can take a ride on this, and you're going to want to be viewing all of that forever and ever, world without end. Amen. Let's go around the horn. Say hello to Mr. Knish. We start with a vicious kick brought on by a heinous leg lock after a dastardly push or stuff happened in a game, right? A lot of harumph about Gibson's ejection and Dellavedova's nothing in a game that turned into a game because these two teams can't hold on to their butts in bike shorts in this series. Kalisha, how much did Gibson's ejection matter?
Well, I think it mattered a lot. It certainly mattered enough that in a game that was going to be a 2-point game in the final minute, the Bulls would have liked to have had Taj Gibson somewhere down the stretch in the fourth quarter, and I think the officials clearly got it wrong. The two guys were engaging in a tough basketball play, a hard screen, a hard block out. Then they're falling to the floor. Nothing is really out of the ordinary until Dellavedova grabs his legs with that scissors kick from the WWF, and Gibson doesn't kick him. He kicks at him as he frees his leg. He doesn't hit him as he's kicking him. He's trying to get his leg out. I mean, this was a clear case of double technical or whatever you want to do.
Just so we're clear
and
here.
instead, the Cavaliers get points.
It would have been technical for you if you're on the floor there making the call.
Yes, one on each guy, and let's keep playing.
Bomani Jones, how about you?
All right, come on, Tim. It was WWE, not the WWF, and he absolutely was making a move to try to kick him into keister. Like, he got his foot free and understood that part, but then we wound up with the next level. You're putting your feet on people. I don't have a problem with them kicking you out of the game. I understand it go the argument in the other direction. I wouldn't have tripped if he stayed, but I'm not bothered by the fact that he got ejected. This is what I'll say about losing Taj Gibson. Plus-minus stats for individual players is a little bit dicey. That being said, in that game, Taj Gibson was a -1. Mirotic, who had to log a lot of those minutes that Gibson could not play, he was at a -18. Yes, they absolutely could have used Taj Gibson in that game. They're short on big men, and one of them, Noah, he has no offensive game going right now, so when he gets the ball, you know he's going to pass, so he's almost useless out there. Yes, they needed Taj Gibson.
So you think this did have an impact on the final outcome. Torrey, how about you?
Well, I agree that Taj Gibson got a raw deal there, and it may have been WWF World Wildlife Fun if, in fact, Taj Gibson was just kicking free of like a bear trap or something. That was kind of the look that he had on his leg. But
That is how you get pulled.
All of that said, this would not have made a difference to me because we saw LeBron James become the LeBron James that we have not seen since the 2009 series against the Pistons, the last time that he had 38 points and no turnovers. And by the way, he owned the entirety of the paint, 9 of 11 from the paint, as well as holding his opponents to only one drive to the paint when he is the primary defender. That's the version of LeBron James that I don't think Taj Gibson, who, by the way, was missing dunks in traffic all night, really, could not have been able to stop even if he wanted to. It made a difference.
So you'd say it didn't have an impact on the outcome because LeBron was going to be LeBron, and that's just the way this game was going to end? I don't know. Jackie Mack, do you agree with that?
Well, I agree that LeBron had that seminal game that we knew he was going to have. I think all of us on the panel talked about having. But here's a funny thing, Bomani, about plus-minus. Do you know what LeBron was in that game, Tony? -4. Can we all agree that LeBron absolutely dominated that basketball and still came out with a plus-minus of -4? That's why you have to be careful of those stats. They needed Taj Gibson because they needed bodies, because they needed somebody to rebound the ball. There was a key possession there at the end of the game. They did not get it. It was an offensive rebound, and they could have used a rebounder in that situation. So you can't say, you can never predict which Taj Gibson have gotten hot, would he have gotten better. We don't know because he was taken out of the game unfairly and unjustly.
Well, the fact is, the Bulls got hot, right? They ended the game on a strong run while LeBron was being LeBron. Pablo Kalishaw, last word.
Basketball is just the only sport that loves to kick out its best players, whether you're fouling them out or coming up with a flagrant 2 that doesn't deserve it.
Well, I know another sport that kicks out some of its best players on occasion. First elimination, second elimination.
I am an athlete.
Usually.
Do you know there's that absurd storyline I want to talk about right now about whether Tom Thibodeau is coaching his last game with the Bulls? Wojnarowski report last week that the team couldn't wait to get rid of him. With the firing of Monty Williams for the Pelicans yesterday, everybody played connect the dots, Bomani. So what do you make of this Thibodeau to New Orleans buzz?
I mean, if Thibodeau is going to be available, and I think we all agree that he will, because you just can't go back to Chicago regardless of who makes the decision that has to end. If you're the Pelicans and you need a coach, that would be the best one who happens to be available. You can't blame them for kicking the tires on him. The only question I'd have about that is, are you prepared for Tom Thibodeau to come down and run Anthony Davis for 45 minutes a night? He runs his players, he runs them into the ground, and he's not the sort of guy that you're going to have stick around for very long. So it's not as though you bet on having a coach for 10 years necessarily, but I think with Thibodeau, that's a guy you have for 5 before everybody is driven crazy. I don't know if that's necessarily what they want.
Playing his players a long time in games, Bomani, but the idea that he can't go back to Chicago, we're past the point. They're still in a series here. They could still beat Cleveland. They could still win the Eastern Conference. They could still play for the NBA Final.
When is the last time you heard this much discussion about a coach leaving and that coach actually coming back? I can't think of a situation.
Tori, where are you on this?
If Thibodeau makes it to the NBA Finals, I think they'd have a very hard time firing him. But otherwise, short of that, this is the bed that he and Gar Forman and the rest of the Bulls management have made for themselves. It's too open to be an open secret at this point. We know about all of the tension. Them firing Thibodeau's favorite assistants, for instance, is a clear sign about what they think of him. However, if I'm throwing out names for this job, how about Mike D'Antoni? How about a guy who gets Anthony Davis as a stretch four and an automatic defensive presence, the very thing that Mike D'Antoni never had. He was winning those games with Amare Stoudemire. If you put Anthony Davis in there, what kind of a job do you give to a man who's the offensive genius that we all recognize him to be at this point? That's the name that I want to see in this mix.
How about you?
I think there's something very real to this. I do think Thibodeau's gone, Tony, because of the damage that's been done. You do understand that they have a trainer that's limiting the minutes of the Chicago Bulls instead of the head coach. Doesn't that sound a situation to you that's a little more than just tenuous, especially for a strong personality like Thibodeau? I'll tell you this. If New Orleans doesn't bite, they'll be lining up to get Thibodeau. He's one of the best defensive minds in the game. You can get a trusted assistant beside you to help you with the offensive end of the game. And I think New Orleans is a coveted job because of the brow. Absolutely, a good job.
And Kalishaw?
You know, I think he's an excellent coach. If I'm New Orleans, I'd like to have him, but I'm gonna start by hoping the Cavaliers win this series and giving the Bulls 2-3 weeks, a month to fire him on their own, so you don't have to pay anything. I'm not going to give up an asset, a player, or a first-round pick to go get a coach who may be about to get fired.
Well, that's the next question, right? With Jason Kidd, it was 2 second-round picks. With Doc Rivers, it was a pick. If there is a trade happening here, and a trade is odd because we've already heard the report they can't wait to get rid of him. Why would you trade anything for a guy who's about to be fired here? Right. But Bomani, what's the market here? What are we looking at?
Oh, I'd absolutely trade a first-round pick for him if that's the guy that I wanted. When Thibodeau took over with the Bulls, they went from being an 8 seed to a 1 seed. The Pelicans are an 8 seed, so what do they do if they get a better coach? You caught
yourself there. You almost went around the Hornets. Very close. And I think it's Thibodeau and Tibbs. I know it's tough to kind of process. Could be Thibodeau and Thibs. I don't know, but I think it's Thibodeau and Tibbs. We'll move on. Rockets Clippers now. Harden's triple-double and Harden the interruption on the Clippers going to the conference finals. And a Billy Joel-looking columnist in Los Angeles is concerned for Los Angeles. Stop me when you heard that one before. Pablo, how concerning was last night's loss to the Clippers?
It's concerning, and it's also very anomalous. No team in NBA history has blown out their opponent by 2 consecutive playoff games, 25 points or more, and then lost the third one by 20. The Clippers have just done that. But the good news is that DeAndre Jordan was the big reason why the Rockets got to feast the way they did. They outscored the Clippers by 21 points and dominated the paint as well as they've dominated the paint in any game this season when Jordan was off the court. You think that next game maybe DeAndre will be back on for more than he was.
Jackie Mack?
I think it's concerning for the Clippers, really more because of what the Houston Rockets did than what the Clippers did do. They didn't shoot the ball well from the perimeter. None of their guys did. So that's something that can be rectified from game to game. If you look at the Rockets, though, they went back to giving the ball, putting it in James Harden's hands, and letting him be the runner-up of the NBA all year by playing that way, by giving him the ball back. They stopped the hack of Jordan thing. They only did it, Tony, when they should have, which is when you're up by a double-digit lead late in the game, so you're slowing down the pace for a team that likes to be in transition.
Kalishaw.
I don't think there's any concern at all. I think these series are tough to close out. If you're the underdog or the lower seed and you're up 3-1 and you go to their city, okay, you know you're flying home regardless of what happens. You know at home you've beaten them by 20 and by 30, and you feel like you're not going to have any trouble doing that. That was a tough game last night for the Clippers. They could have shown up a little better.
And
but,
Bomani?
I'm not worried about the money.
Well, much of that game felt anomalous. The Rockets shot 66% on two-pointers. They didn't win this by bombing as you would have expected them to, and the Clippers looked bad all the way around. The only thing is they also look to be tired. They look to be spent. They don't have a lot of bodies to run out there. The longer the series goes, with Chris Paul, Gibby, and everything else, that would be the Clippers' concern.
Kalishaw 11, Torrey 11, McMahon 11, Jones. What the heck? 11. Let's live a little bit. Fire cells next.
Oh, no gift.
And later, the two sweetest words in sports. Cup check. Oh. Wait, what?
I was expecting
What?
something else.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Buy or sell.
We start with Bobby Bowden calling Jameis Winston an embarrassment to Florida State University on Paul Feinbaum's show yesterday. We'll put up the full quote here on the screen so you can read it in full context. Should be said, Feinbaum's question introduced the words embarrassment and controversy, also crab legs. Timmy, buy or sell Bowden's comments?
I'm going to sell him. You can say Feinbaum let him down that path, but Bobby Bowden went there very willingly. He could have distanced from it a little bit, but he called him. He said the consensus is he was an embarrassment. That's an odd thing for a Florida State alum to say.
You know, I will buy what Bobby said, and I will say that Feinbaum absolutely walked him down that road. But when you listen to the audio of it, Bobby sounds a lot more like a grandfather than he does sound a curmudgeon. And at a lot of times, in a lot of ways, Jameis did embarrass Florida State. But as Bobby said, there's time to correct for that, and that's the part that often gets missed.
Yeah, the key phrase that Bobby Bowden said that makes me buy his comments is in a lot of ways. If it's not a consensus among Florida State alums that he was an embarrassment in a lot of ways, we're surprised only because a Florida State alum is expressing some sort of critical thought. That's a separate issue. He's saying something that's totally uncontroversial.
Jackie Mack.
Well, I am buying the comments, but, you know, he's not just a Florida State alum. I believe he still works for the university in some capacity, so that does make it makes it extremely odd. There's no question about that. But you know what? When you're Bobby Bowden and you've won 2 national championships, you can say whatever you want about Florida State. That's kind of your right. He's kind of like the Red Auerbach of Florida State there. So it's,
no matter what happens.
Buy or sell 2, sticking with Florida State. It's Everett Golson and his transfer. Jimbo Fisher. Listen to this. Quote, "We are negotiating. We never promise a guy he'll be the starter," end quote. Bomani, buy or sell that?
I mean, I've got to buy it. These things are transactions by definition. Every time there's a recruitment going on, there is a level of negotiation by definition. Okay. And I'm curious to see what winds up happening because Everett Golson's a good quarterback with a ball security problem. If he can hold on to the ball, Florida State would get a whole lot better by having him.
Pablo?
Yeah, negotiate is one of those words that I'm sure the NCAA would prefer their coaches not use, but this is the first time since signing day, really, that a player gets to have leverage over where he goes and over the coaches who may be employing him effectively. So this is absolutely just the truth.
Jackie Mack.
I think it is the right word, and Notre Dame is negotiating too, Tony, by telling Golson he can't transfer to any school that's on their schedule next season. So this is a two-way street in terms of negotiations, and I think, you know, Florida State, that's a pretty good fit for Golson.
You like that fit, don't you? The other schools reportedly, Florida, UCLA, Alabama, none of those schools on Notre Dame's schedule. How about you, Kalishaw?
Right. I'm going to sell it. Jimbo Fisher may be trying to forget it, but a lot of us remember the Clemson game last year when they played 60 minutes without Jameis Winston. We saw what the backup quarterback situation looked like. They need Everett Golson.
Back to basketball now. Buy or sell 3. I'm looking for the adjustment to the adjustment, right? Game 4, Bogut on Allen, freed everything up for Golden State. And how did the Grizzlies respond? Pablo?
Well, I think you end up having an even quicker hook on Tony Allen because that Bogut play, putting him in the paint, packing the paint, basically playing his zone is brilliant. The question is, if you're Memphis, how are the Splash Brothers doing? Can you bring in Jeff Green and sacrifice some of that defense for that offensive trade-off?
Jackie?
You might have to get to that hook pretty quickly.
Well, but you have to hope that Jeff Green will be more consistent from the perimeter, Pablo, than he has in this series and, frankly, has been throughout his career. I said this the other day, and I'll say it again. I'm attacking the matchup of Harrison Barnes on Zach Randolph because that's what happens when you switch Bogut over to Allen. And I'm going to try to get physical on Zach Randolph and get my points that way.
You think that'll be enough to make this a win for Memphis, Jackie?
No.
Pablo, I didn't ask you that question either. The adjustment, you mean that's fine? No, just asking.
I got the Warriors tonight.
Okay, Kalisha, what's your adjustment?
Look, I think it's a long shot for any team to try to win twice at Golden State in a series. But as Jackie said, Randolph has to hit shots in that situation. Gasol does. It's not so much up to Tony Allen hitting shots. And I wouldn't bench him. I would keep playing him.
Well, I don't think Randolph hitting shots, of course. He also needs to hit whoever is guarding him. It's either Draymond Green or it's Harrison Barnes, and those guys are too small to guard him. You got to punish them. Marc Gasol also has to get to the free throw line. There have been plenty of games this postseason he's done double digits. He just did about 6 the last time they played. But if you want to get Andrew Bogut off the floor, I mean, I don't want to watch it, but he's really bad at shooting free throws, and I've been watching him in these other series where you can just, you know.
Bomani, what are you doing? You're going to advise for a hacker strategy after what we just saw?
I'm just saying.
You know that free point you got before? The point's coming off the board right now. You're the first to go. Wave goodbye, Bomani. That was the hacker strategy
I don't
right
get
there.
to say anything. You're just going to put me off of here.
Kalisha, Torrey, McMullen, lightning round deck. Later, Giancarlo Stanton. Helmet like Mad Max. Fly like a G6.
Wow.
A weird steampunk Mad Max, too.
Kalisha, Torrey, McMullen, they're just 17. You know what I mean. It's the lightning round. Oh, mama, put the hockey pads outside and smell up the neighborhood. Game 7 tonight in New York. You know about Ovechkin's guarantee. You know it will be a one-goal game by the simple fact the Rangers are playing, Tim. How do you see this playing out?
Tony, I've been giving this a lot of thought, as you can imagine, to which team is going to be a little closer to hoisting this great trophy. The answer is the Washington Capitals. Alex Ovechkin is right. I know the Rangers' histories in Game 7. I certainly respect what Lundqvist has done. Washington's been the better team in the series.
Do you know Washington's history in Game 7, Kalisha? Torrey, how about you?
Thanks to Carrot Top for the opening act there. But look, the fact that the Rangers have won at Madison Square Garden 6 straight Game 7s tells me something. The fact that Henrik Lundqvist has won not just 5 straight Game 7s, but by 1 or fewer goals holding his opponents to, that is impressive.
So you look at history. Kalisha decides not to look at history. McMullen, what do you do?
Messier isn't skating through that arena, but it doesn't matter because Ovechkin, who made the guarantee, he hasn't had a point in this series since Game 2. And you know what he's done in the last 5 Game 7s, Tony? 0 goals, 1 assist.
Okay, well, maybe he's putting the pressure on himself to try to motivate himself. You've got New York in there.
Good luck with that.
Lightning 2. It is wrong to criticize my independence just because you disagree with my findings. Also, words like direct evidence. And if I was in the jury, I would check the proven box. Pablo, how did Ted Wells' 30-minute conference call with reporters come off to you?
It came off like a guy who, number one, found a bunch of text messages wherein somebody calls themselves the deflator, and he can't understand why people don't think that's a convincing thing. But the other thing that I do disagree with about him is he took money from the NFL. The independence of your findings cannot truly be independent if that relationship still exists.
Jackie Mack?
I thought he came out as incredibly combative, but I also thought he was very revealing, Tony, particularly when he was talking about the fact that he gave Tom Brady the option to take the texts that were related to Deflategate and to present that to him, and he wouldn't look at the rest of the stuff on his phone. I thought that was very, very
that cleared him a little bit. Okay. How about you, Kalisha?
So, yeah.
I thought he got his main point across, meaning the league got its main point across, how uncooperative the New England Patriots organization and Tom Brady were during this entire investigation.
Kalisha passing McMullen in the left lane there at the end. Jackie, what do you have to say to yourself?
Was that did you have a little tick there, Tony? Because, you know, that's correctable.
Sometimes it happens. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, that's another tick. There it is. Kalisha, Torrey. Showdown straight ahead. And I don't care if he wins 3 more MVPs, 5 more Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers' legacy, getting Trebek to do this. Put! Whoa!
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Make Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
A new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Your home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
It's Showdown, it's Kalishaw, it's Torre, and it's Stanton's home run out of Dodger Stadium. Fourth man ever to do it. But it was the one run his team scored in an 11-1 loss, Kalishaw. So how memorable was it really?
Well, I won't remember it the way I remember Jack Clark hitting that one off Tom Niedenfuhr when I was there in 1985. But a ball hit out of Dodger Stadium stands on its own. It's only happened about 6 times, once every 10 years.
Aesthetically pleasing as it was, that wasn't even the longest home run of this year. Josh Donaldson, 469, A-Rod in the 470s. It's very nice, but you've seen longer.
There was majesty in it, wasn't it? Especially with the Mad Max helmet he's got one. Willie Stargell did it twice. Mike Piazza did it once. Mark McGwire did it once. And now, Stanton. We'll move on. Showdown 2. The win. The fact he destroyed the competition, including Mr. Wonderful. The time that he muttered something under his breath when he got a daily double wrong. Or Trebek doing the discount double check. What was the best part of Aaron Rodgers' Jeopardy performance, Pablo?
There was a lot to like, but the fact that he beat an astronaut. The fact that he beat an astronaut tells me a lot about Aaron Rodgers, but also about Celebrity Jeopardy. Maybe make the questions a little bit harder next time.
Being an astronaut is not that great. An astronaut's going to know all the science questions. He's not going to know that Robin Wright was a Princess Bride. That was easy. The Alex Trebek double check. That was the move right there. Thank you.
Went to space. The guy went to
Trebek
space.
gets Kalishaw the face top.
Stop talking down there. I told you earlier, I think Washington will beat the Rangers. I don't care who wins the game. I want to see a great game, but mostly what I want to see is more than 60 minutes. There is nothing better than playoff overtime hockey, and when you get it in Game 7, it is simply something the other sports cannot match. When football playoff games go to overtime, you can see a team driving down the field. Basketball's got the clock. You can watch baseball. The home team's always going to get a chance to tie. Hockey, you could be trying to score and almost scoring the home team, and 5 seconds later the puck can be in your net at the other end. Takes your breath away.
It does.
Did you just explain how hockey works?
He did. He did, Bomani.
I did.
You know, it's that way until it's about the 4th overtime, and then it gets a little bit crazy.
2 overtimes is the limit. You don't want to see 3.
Thanks for coming around. 43.5 hours break. Rebecca from the Warriors.
Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals.
That one is gone.
A pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.